Hello, everybody. This is Stealth with Energy Medicine for Planet Earth, and I'd like to welcome you to another installment of our series. We've got Dr. Gary Kersey on the line. Hello, Gary. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So, Gary, what is the topic of our discussion today?
Well, we're going to continue, and we're going to cover three more of the Biosteric discs, which we kind of refer to as foundational discs. In other words, we can have all kinds of fantastic discs that can change your life, but many times people, they get busy and they just don't actually take charge. They don't take the necessary steps they need to, and they put things off. And again, I'm not judging people. For goodness sake, I've done it a million times. And I always try to remind myself that my unconscious mind may have maybe a certain plan that maybe keeps me where I'm at. And sometimes the unconscious mind, it sounds like it's a sabotage, but it really isn't. It's a way to keep us safe. Every living person on this planet has a little button that gets pushed all the time that says, I will take care of you, you will be safe. And I'm not knocking safe. I like safe. I love safe. But sometimes if you just stay where you're at, the safety becomes stuck. You become stuck in a rut. And then there's no spiritual growth. There's no growth emotionally. There's no growth in our lives. We just stay on that even keel. And we did not come here to do that. We came here to grow spiritually. And to do that, we cannot get stuck. We have to be willing to step out.
Excellent, excellent. Yep, that sounds so. I can definitely identify with all that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. In fact, the first disc that we have is called the next step. It's called Biosteric Next Step. And what it can be used for is when you need to get unstuck. And I think we know how to feel that. And if we say we're going to do something or we have planned to do something and we mention it to somebody and say, oh, I'm excited, I'm going to do XYZ. And the person goes, hey, wait a minute, didn't you tell me that last month? And you go, uh-oh, yes, I did. And you realize that things aren't materializing like they need to. One of the discs you might want to choose, and we're going to cover one called Worthy. We're going to cover one called Procrastinate. But the first one we'll cover is called Next Step. And I want to explain a little bit more in depth, more than we did the last time, to explain, just to very briefly explain how these discs work. We won't take the time to go into the science, but it's in-depth things. We can certainly do that on another podcast. In fact, I'd love to do that. But let's simply explain that everything has a frequency. That includes gemstones. That includes flower essences. That includes special oils. All those things have a frequency. And if we knew exactly what we needed, we could order that. But the catch is there may be 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 or 100 choices, and we can't certainly buy 100 products and start trying them. But what we can do is we can use some equipment that I have that downloads the frequencies of several different gemstones and flower essences and affirmations. And those frequencies are stored in crystals. So when you purchase the Biotheric disc, you're actually purchasing a frequency pattern, okay, of all these different frequencies. And today I wanted to be a little more specific hoping people can maybe grasp this, because I know it's over people's head, and I don't mean to talk over people's head. For example, I chose several different flower essences and gemstone frequencies for the disc called Next Step. One of them I chose is Tansy. I like Tansy because Tansy is famous for helping those who procrastinate or don't have enough energy to simply get things completed. You know, many times when we are aligned with our true purpose, there's this energy, and we've all felt that. We feel this energy or power comes into us. But what if we're off task? What if we are offline and we are not moving toward our God-given purpose? That's when we'll notice an energy drop. The energy just isn't there for that. And that's where Tansy comes in. So I put the frequency of Tansy in the Next Step disc. I also picked one called horseradish. That may sound kind of off the wall, but believe it or not, horseradish is famous for people who are feeling stuck or frustrated. It kind of prepares you for taking charge, and it also helps elevate your self-esteem. Okay, and I didn't invent any of these. Anyone can do the research and study all these flower essences and gemstones. All I've done is I've come across a spirit gave me the ability to create these discs, which have the frequencies of all these different things in one disc. And then you can use that disc to gain the benefit. Another example is blackberry. The Next Step disc has blackberry. What this does, it helps your ideas to take root. So if you have ideas, things you want to do, but they seem to float around, this helps you plant those, okay? You have like a feeling, sometimes we'll have a feeling that something's wrong, but you can't really change it. This disc will help that. Sometimes you have all these ideas, but you can't get to any of them. It's like you're just inundated with all these ideas, and they're all good, but you can't seem to get anything to take hold. That's when one would use the Next Step disc, because it contains the blackberry. And one last one that's one of my favorites is the Shasta daisy. The Shasta daisy helps you organize fragmented ideas. And believe me, I've been there myself. It's great for students. It's good for people that are writers. And it helps you manifest into the real world what you want. Because when we can create many things, but to bring that into the physical world, that's a whole nother ball game. It's like a friend of mine once told me at a seminar, he was getting ready for lunch, and he was sitting there holding an apple. He wanted an apple, didn't have one. So he wanted to see if he could manifest an apple, because he was just talking about that ability. So you can imagine seeing this grown man sitting in a chair holding his hand out with his eyes closed. So he's trying to manifest an apple, and all of a sudden an apple drops into his hand, and he looks up quite astonished, and it was somebody in the class that said, "I don't know if you like apples, I had an extra one." So he didn't manifest it the way he wanted, he didn't materialize it, but yet he kind of did. So his intention was to get an apple, and he got one. But what he was really trying was to actually pull the image of the apple from the etheric level down to the physical level. We all have that ability, but I don't personally know anyone that can do that. But when we have an idea, it floats around in the etheric. And if we can't pull that down, we can't use it. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help anyone else. So that's when I would choose the Next Step disc. And two real fast ones, purple archangel flower helps with creative blocks, helps you get organized. And I also put in buttercup. I downloaded buttercup because it increases self-confidence and creativity. So if you're not happy with who you are, Buttercup is a good flower essence for that. And that's why I put that in the next step disc. So that's what that disc does.
Excellent. That's a beautiful combination. Um, it just occurred to me, Dr. Kersey, would you mind for our viewers and listeners explaining the difference between essential oils and flower essences, and maybe just quickly touching on what a flower essence is, because not everybody's aware of flower essences, and I've noticed that a lot of times people just think that it's something that smells like flowers or has a scent.
Well, essential oils uh, can be made from flowers or herbs, and they're
Hmm.
concentrated. They're very concentrated. Uh, in fact, many times uh, you dilute them. And instructions, if you read the instructions for an essential oil, it'll say take 2 drops and add it to maybe an ounce of coconut oil.
Hmm.
Or if you're going to do a bath soak, you can it'll say put 2 or 3 drops in your bath. That doesn't sound like much, does it? But that's very strong. Uh, many essential oils, uh, if you put a drop on your tongue, it would burn your tongue.
Hmm.
They're not made for that. You got to be very careful. With flower essences, uh, the way many people make flower essences is they'll take a bloom, the actual flower, and they'll float it in water, and they'll leave it there for a certain period of time, and the energetics of that will go into the water. Okay, the essential oils, a scientist could wrap his head around that, by the way, but
Hmm.
a scientist, he's going to shake his head and like close his eyes if you start telling him about flower essences, because he's going to be thinking, whoa, 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 there's nothing in that water. And you explain to him, no, there's the vibration of that flower. And
Right,
whatever.
which is, yep,
Yeah,
Richard
yeah,
Bach, right? Was that, and
yeah,
so they're sometimes called Bach remedies.
exactly.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
those,
yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
So a mainstream scientist would say, if he wanted to prove that if it was there, he would take some of the water, take it to the laboratory, put it in a beaker, then he would analyze it in a machine to see if he can measure any of it there. But when you're dealing with the energy world, uh, you're looking at vibration, and you're looking
Hmm.
at the impact it has on your etheric field. And of course, the scientist, he doesn't know anything about your field, your energy field, because he doesn't have a machine to measure it. And uh, although I have read that we have machines that do measure that now, but energy medicine folks have known for centuries that we have an energy field. And there are many people. In fact, I've attended workshops, one in particular, where there was over 200 women there that could see the energy field around a person's body. So they most certainly believed in that because they could actually see it.
Hmm.
I cannot see energy fields, but that doesn't mean I don't know they're there. I can't see the wind, but I know it's there. I can see what it does. So I've worked with energy fields for 35 years, but I can't see them. So it'd be nice if I could, but I haven't needed to. I have other ways of measuring energy around the body. And so, yeah, flower essences work within that realm, and they're very effective. And all I do is take the frequencies and place that into crystals. And then when you purchase the disc and get it home, you can actually transfer that into water, and you can get the benefits from those flower essences.
That excellent. Thank you for taking that quick diversion with
Sure.
us.
Yeah.
Super. So what's the next disc in this
Well,
foundational series that we're
the,
going to discuss?
the next disc I like very good. It has 2 flower essences in it. It's got the frequencies of 11 gemstones. It's got the frequencies of 18 essential oils. So it's a very busy disc.
Hmm.
Uh, disc can I I can't put thousands of frequencies in one disc. they're not big enough, but a disc can easily hold 2 flower essences, 11 gemstone frequencies, and 18 essential oil frequencies. So that's what I like about the Biosteric disc. They do hold a lot of information. And one of the things I put in the procrastination disc is I put hornbeam, because that people sometimes will have unexplained fatigue. And what I mean by that is they aren't sick, they don't have any diseases, they got plenty of sleep, but for some reason they're still kind of tired. It also helps people face whatever obstacles they need to face. It kind of gives you an inner energy or inner force. I also, yeah.
So this next disc it's called Procrastinate.
Exactly. Sometimes it's written procrast, then the letter N and the number 8 is kind of a clever way of writing it. So this is the second disc that we use that's good to consider to get you going. And the next one I put in is a mineral. It's called orange calcite. I like orange calcite because it helps with past life recall. So people that do past life recall could use this disc. It also is excellent for confidence, and it aids motivation. So sometimes if we just don't have the motivation we need, how are we going to get anywhere changing our lives using Biosteric discs if we can't even get off the couch and take the first step? So this disc is good for that. And I put in another mineral called halite, and that encourages ambition and action. It also helps with meditation. So it's a meditation assister. So if someone meditates already, it may help them go deeper into meditation. And people who don't really get the benefit from meditation, sometimes they need some help. And there are many things they can do to get that help. And one thing they could do is use the Procrastinate disc. And then just to name just one of the, just for the sake of time, let me just name one essential oil called rosemary. People sometimes feel exhausted and weighed down, and they feel sleepy and depressed. But again, they're not sick, and they got plenty of sleep. They don't know what's causing it. It's just like an energy, a heaviness. And rosemary helps that. It helps balance out the energetic circuits that supply the kidneys and adrenal glands. So we have to remember we have acupuncture meridians, which are the energy line that feed our organs. And we also have chakras that kind of control everything. And sometimes those need balancing. And the Biosteric discs are fantastic for balancing the energy in the channels, the meridians, the chakras, all the different energetic fields that make up who we are. In other words, it's the part of us that we can't necessarily see. When we look in the mirror, we don't see those. We just see our physical body. But there's more to us than just that. And I think most people in energy medicine, they already know that. So thank goodness I don't have to usually explain things about chakras, for example. And the internet is pretty good at explaining some of the basics on what chakras are. So many people kind of know what those are, but they don't always have a good plan of action on how to balance them. There are people that do that for a living. The ones I met that are really good, there aren't very many. There are just a few in the whole country. So if I wanted to balance energy in my body or my chakras, let's say, for example, I knew somebody in Denver, Colorado. I can't fly. I'm not going to fly there and get a treatment. And also, anytime you go to practitioners, many of them are very expensive. and people can't afford to go every week. And that is, and again, I'm not belaboring money. I'm not saying someone doesn't deserve to be paid. Absolutely not. They do deserve to be paid. I'm simply saying that when you own a biosteric disc, it's like having a chakra expert in your living room. You can actually apply these frequencies for free and get the benefit. So it's an amazing thing.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful shortcut, but that sort of even diminishes. It's something that somebody can always have on hand for self-treatment and bettering their lives, getting to their goals, achieving their success, following the path that perhaps their spiritual to their highest spiritual potential and alignment with the God source.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
one of the
wonderful.
good things I like too, with many of the discs, the things they do, you will off and on at times need the benefit of them for perhaps the rest of your life. Many of the discs are like that. Uh, let's take a disc that's good for helping with injury. When you're injured, that damages the energy field.
Mm-hmm.
And and when you're injured, you need to do all the things that you're supposed to do for that injury, whatever it is. But in addition, you can use the injury disc. But when you heal up, you don't need that disc anymore. But it's not wasted money. You put that in your medicine cabinet, and it'll be there if you ever need it. So that's what I like about the discs too. They're not something you buy 2 or 3 of them and then they lay in a drawer and you never use them again. Uh, Over the years, I purchased many things like that I used them and I liked them. They weren't quackery. I liked them. They did what they were supposed to. But I reached a point where I no longer needed them anymore. And then there they laid in a drawer. That doesn't happen with the Biosteric discs. I'm happy to tell you.
Yes, and they last a lifetime, literally.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so sounds like we've discussed the next step, the procrastinate. If you have touched on all the points of the procrastinate disc, why don't you tell us what's next, Dr. Kersey?
Well, the Biosteric worthy disc.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I use. I don't use it all the time, but I use it a lot. Okay. And this might be a little technical, so I apologize. Uh, in a group of sentences or in a phrase that has a message, a general message. Well, that word message, that's another word for frequency. So when a person reads a paragraph and they get something from that and they feel moved by it, and by the way, we've all done this. We've all read things that made us cry. We've read things that made us laugh. We've read things that made us sad. Well, what happened there? Well, yes, I understand a psychologist would say, oh, it touched upon your emotions. I get that. But let's kick that up a notch. Let's go a little higher. What that did was that downloaded a frequency into your energy field. And then you process that. Well, here's the part that's hard to explain. Maybe someday we'll get more into it. But I have a device that can take the essence of a paragraph and create a digital readout or frequency that I can then download that into crystals. And let me read just quickly this one little paragraph. It's kind of cute. It says, take the worthiness that is yours and let the fairies of the universe assist you. Stop taking so much responsibility upon yourself and live happily ever after. Shorten that crevasse between where you are and where you want to be on every subject to now and now and now. Ride that wave, pluck that fruit. You don't have to be the one who puts it in the ground anymore. You can simply skip across the top of things and pluck that fruit of all the things you want. Oh, fruit, oh, delicious, oh, delicious, oh, delicious. In other words, it's all right there for you. It's ready for you to receive it as fast and as soon as you can vibrationally let it in. Isn't that wild?
That's wonderful.
That
Yeah.
the essence
Mm-hmm.
of that the essence of that thought form
Mm-hmm.
is broken down into a frequency, and I've loaded that into the worthy disc. I also have something called Fibonacci sequences, and they will create a certain shift in the body using the chakras, and and they also use the help of crystals and sometimes plants and flowers, and also numbers. Numbers are very powerful. Numbers are frequencies, and I put a couple of those into the worthy disc. I put in an affirmation that says, as each day passes, I release more and more resistance to returning to my natural state of well-being. So the essence of that has been converted into a frequency and downloaded into the worthy disc. I also have about 7 or 8 different gemstones. I have a gemstone called carnelian that increases internal energy. I have something called a sunstone that can strengthen the chakras and helps one with their success. And then I also downloaded different flower essences and trees like cypress, lilac, that type of thing. And then I also added in some commands. Commands are like affirmations. And I know a lot of people think of affirmations like you have to say them hundreds of times and that you have to do them every day for weeks at a time. That's how I was taught 30 years ago. And I gradually started discovering that that isn't really true. If you put it in the proper form and you send that to your higher self, you don't need to tell your higher self twice. I mean, if a mother is trying to tell their 8-year-old to clean their room, she may have to tell, about 50 times. But think about this. If you're connecting to your higher self, why would you need to say the same affirmation over and over and over? So I call these commands. One I put in the worthy disc says, I no longer deem myself unworthy, and I now let the energy reach me. The next one is, I now completely, by the force of grace, let go of the art of not allowing. The next one I put in says, I now completely, by the force of grace, let go of the art of resisting. I then put in, my life is unfolding perfectly, nothing is broken. And the last one I put in, all day, every day, my cells are reclaiming balance. So when you take your worthy disc and you put your little shot glass of water on top for 2 minutes, you now have those frequencies in the water. It's almost like you've created your own homeopathic remedy. It's not a homeopathic remedy, but it's in that same genre. Mm-hmm. And you pop that in your mouth. You hold that in your mouth for 15 seconds, and you're done. And it is now gone into your energy field. I had someone ask once if I knew exactly how that worked, and oddly enough, I have taken that training, and I think it's interesting. There are acupuncture points underneath your tongue, and when you put the water into that has been downloaded into your mouth, that energy goes into those points under your tongue, and it then goes into your entire meridian system, and it circulates through your entire body. And it takes, they figured out it takes 15 seconds, depending upon who you're talking to, some say 11 seconds, to get back to the tongue. So it goes through the entire circuit. It makes one pass. So what you're doing, you're actually zapping yourself with a charged energy, full of flower essences, commands, gemstones, the whole 9 yards, and it goes right in. And we usually recommend doing that 3 times a day. And that way the person will get the benefits of that disc. And I think we talked last time that the disc can be carried, and you can put it under your pillow at night. You can use it as a necklace. There's lots of ways of using your disc. And I found that people seem to migrate towards the one they need. I had one gentleman call up all excited. He was getting fantastic results, and he took a copper wire and wrapped it around one of the discs. And I don't know why he would do that. They don't need a copper wire. But I said, why did you do that? He said, well, I just one day got up and thought I would do that. He thought it might be a good idea to do that. Well, was I going to tell him, oh, don't do that, don't wrap that copper? I didn't say a thing. If his higher self said wrap copper wire around the disc, he should wrap copper wire around that disc. So I try to be supportive of what people do with their discs. So I learn wonderful things from people. So many times they'll call and tell me something about a disc that I never even thought of using. And it's kind of neat that way. So I try not to be so dogmatic with, you have to do this, you have to do that. So I try to be open-minded with people. The only thing I do have to put my foot down on is they can't get wet. So I have had 2 or 3 people run them through the washing machine. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't let them get soaking wet. So, because they're not waterproof. But that's about it. Everything else, whatever a person wants to do, if they're getting results with it, for goodness sake, go for it. I support it.
Wow. That's great. I really appreciate your explanation of the commands. It sounds like it's something akin to painting a room. Once you apply the paint, you don't need to keep doing it.
That's a good, yes, exactly. It just makes perfect sense. Now, I think there is a place for affirmations. I'm not telling people all affirmations are bad. It has to do with how you're using them. And I think sometimes people, they use a certain affirmation over and over when they didn't need to do that. So if you're talking to your higher self, or some people call it your superconscious, it's got lots of names. I think it's like around 100 different names. But your higher self, your superconscious, whatever you're giving the information to, you don't always have to say it twice. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say that this is, when I listen to you speak about this biotheric technology, I feel such a hopefulness for the possibilities that folks can encounter when they decide to go ahead and get their own biotheric discs. I personally have had such amazing results. They have literally changed my life. I'm so grateful. And when I'm doing these interviews with you, I learn new things about them that make me even more excited about this technology. And I'm so glad that we're doing this interview series so that we can share the information.
Well, I have a lot more information that I can't. That just isn't. This is not the right format. Mm-hmm. But I encourage people to use our email. And also, they can use my special phone number, my business phone number. They're not bothering me when they call. I actually expect to get calls, because many times a person can ask me questions and we can move ahead very quickly, and I can move them several notches up just by having them call me, as opposed to if they had to send me an email, then I had to answer them, then they had to answer my email. I uh, I never get tired of explaining how these things work, and I love explaining to people uh, the ins and outs of how to use a disc. And I will give I can give suggestions, things they might not have thought of with using the disc. Uh, there are some people. I actually had a gentleman order. Uh, this doesn't happen, of course, every day, but he ordered approximately uh, $1,000 worth of products in one whack. And so I immediately started trying to teach him and tell him about the products. And he kept interrupting and saying, "Don't I'm kind of in a hurry. I've been there. I know about that." And then I'd start to tell him something. He'd go, "Well, yeah, let's move on. I know about that." So I finally said, how do you know so much? He It turned out he had listened to every uh, radio show I'd done. He'd read everything I'd written, uh, every video of mine. He knew everything about my products. He'd researched everything. But I have to remind myself that he's unusual. Most people will not do that. Either that's not their personality, it's not their style, or they don't have the time. And that's why calling me is a wonderful shortcut, because I can cut right to the chase and answer the person's questions. And if there's things they don't need to hear, I don't have to go into that. But there might be something they misunderstood or something they never heard of. I can then explain that. So that's why I'm a big fan of one-on-one, because I can kind of it's like a mini seminar is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, so it's kind of like a mini seminar. So yeah, I like emails, I like texting, but I also like actually speaking with the new person.
Excellent. And I'm also just going to let folks know that in the description box below the video is the website information, and the websites have all the phone numbers, contact forms, and we're developing blog posts. So there's going to be interesting articles, and there's some videos on the website, especially the Biotheric medicine one, as well as audios. So Dr. Kersey, is there anything else you'd like to add? I think that we've covered our 3 next step: procrastinate and worthy discs.
I think so. I think the next thing we're gonna do is go into the 3 disc sets that work together to work with our emotions. Because I think we mentioned last time, many times, if a person's life is not going like it should, whether it's relationships, a marriage, a life path issue, or if it's something with finances, money, a job issue, something with employment, something with health, something that they can't seem to get a handle on, all of those things will actually have an emotional imbalance underlying all that. And that's why it's super, super, super important to begin to work with emotional imbalance energetically, work with the emotions energetically, because that is going to help you gain a successful foundation for what your next step is, whether that's with a new marriage, or making more money, or getting a raise, or starting your own business, or trying to heal a certain health thing that you've been trying so hard for years and can't seem to find the answer to. Emotional imbalance is one of the things that's a core. And that's one of the things that people either don't know, or they never thought of, or they thought of it, but they have no idea how to approach it. And starting next time, we are going to teach people how to do that.
Super. Yeah, it's just wonderful to be part of this, helping folks find tools that can equip them to lead better lives, to be more aligned with their higher self, their true purpose, their joy, their happiness. Dr. Kersey, I'd just like to thank you so much. It's been great having you.
Thank you. I've enjoyed doing this.
Okay, well, you take care. Everybody have a good afternoon, have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you again soon.